Daniel Carter had always been a man of quiet devotion. A successful software engineer, he worked tirelessly to provide a comfortable life for his wife, Emily. Their marriage, built on years of love and companionship, had once been the envy of their friends. But love, when taken for granted, has a way of withering in the shadows. And in those shadows, secrets festered. Emily was a woman who longed for excitement. What had started as a passionate love story with Daniel had, over time, settled into predictable comfort. She felt trapped in a life of routine, yearning for the thrill she had lost. That thrill arrived in the form of Victor Hale, a man whose presence was a storm in contrast to Daniel's quiet reign. Victor was everything Daniel wasn't. Dangerous, reckless, unpredictable. His past was a mystery, his future a gamble. To Emily, he was irresistible. Their affair began in hushed conversations, stolen glances, and grew into secret rendezvous in dimly lit hotel rooms. She told herself she deserved happiness, even if it came at the cost of deception. But Daniel was not blind. He noticed the late nights, the distant look in Emily's eyes, the way her phone was always locked away. He wanted to believe he was imagining it, that his wife wouldn't betray him. Until the night he came home early. Pulling into the driveway, Daniel noticed a sleek black car parked down the street, its dark windows reflecting the streetlights. Something felt wrong. He stepped into his home, calling Emily's name. Silence greeted him. His heart pounded as he climbed the stairs, the bedroom door slightly ajar. He pushed it open, and the world he knew shattered. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her silk robe barely covering her, and beside her, lazily stretching, was Victor. The smirk on Victor's face as he met Daniel's gaze sent rage coursing through his veins. "Well," Victor mused, "I guess the secret's out." Emily gasped, wrapping herself in the sheets, but Daniel turned on his heel and walked out. He didn't yell, didn't scream. He simply left. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in his car, staring at the house he had built with love. He had given Emily everything, and yet she had chosen to betray him. But his heartbreak was soon replaced by something colder, a whisper of suspicion. Who was Victor? The next morning, Daniel made a call to an old friend, Detective Harris. "I need a favor," he said. Harris sighed on the other end. "This about your wife?" Daniel stiffened. "How do you know?" "Because I already know who Victor is," Harris said grimly. "And trust me, you're not the only one who should be worried." Victor Hale was no ordinary man. He was a criminal, fraud, extortion, assault. A man who had left a trail of ruined lives in his wake. And now, he had Emily tangled in his web. That night, Daniel made a decision. He wouldn't fight for a woman who had already chosen another. But he couldn't let her get swallowed by the darkness she had unknowingly stepped into. So he set a trap. Over the next few days, Daniel played the role of the heartbroken husband. He didn't confront Emily, didn't lash out. Instead, he waited. Harris kept close watch on Victor, and soon, the perfect opportunity arrived. Victor had debts, dangerous ones. He was planning something big, a heist that could land him behind bars for good. And Emily? She was just another pawn. Then, one night, Daniel received a text. Emily's name flashed on his screen. "Help me." His blood ran cold. He drove to the address she sent, a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with tension as he stepped inside. Emily was there, tied to a chair, her eyes wide with terror. Victor stood beside her, a gun resting lazily in his grip. "You just don't know when to quit, do you?" Victor sighed. Daniel clenched his fists. "Let her go." Victor chuckled. "See, that's the problem. She's seen too much. And you're a loose end." But what Victor didn't know was that Daniel wasn't alone. Harris and his team had surrounded the warehouse. The moment Victor raised his gun, the space was flooded with red and blue lights. Sirens wailed. Officers stormed in. Victor tried to run, but he never had a chance. Harris tackled him to the ground, pinning his arms behind his back. Emily sobbed as Daniel untied her. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who he really was." Daniel looked at her, his expression unreadable. A part of him still loved her, but love wasn't always enough. The next morning, he packed his bags. Emily begged him to stay, promised she would change, but the damage was done. He had spent years loving someone who had never truly valued him. It was time to walk away. Months passed. Victor was sentenced to prison. Emily, guilt-ridden and alone, tried to rebuild her life. And Daniel? Daniel found peace. One evening, as he sat in a quiet cafe, sipping his coffee, a woman sat across from him. She had kind eyes, a warm smile. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. And for the first time in a long time, Daniel smiled. Not at all. Sometimes, endings weren't about getting even. They were about letting go. And for Daniel, this was just the beginning of something new.